interesting than that, Canada's role in this, which has achieved almost no fundamental coverage in any media or even in the counterculture media. And most Canadians don't realize that Canada itself, and not just Canada, but specifically the University of British Columbia, beginning in 2005, realized that if it was going to be relevant in the biotech space, it had to be the country and it had to be the research hotbed for establishing the delivery mechanism whereby mRNA vaccines could be developed. The University of British Columbia, working in partnership with Inex Pharmaceuticals in 2005, developed the lipid nanoparticle technology that ultimately became the basis of the formation of a company in British Columbia called Techmira Pharmaceuticals. In 2009, Techmira had a very interesting set of challenges, and this was commensurate with the 2008 declaration by the World Health Organization that the coronavirus was in fact eradicated as a condition associated with SARS. And because of the lack of funding in 2008, both Canada and the United States struggled with the fact that they had developed a technology that was supposed to be for a vaccination of coronavirus and for a number of other viral models. But the problem was they ran out of funding, and so there was a series of reorganizations, and in those reorganizations, two companies were formed, Arbutus Pharmaceuticals and Acuitas Pharmaceuticals. Acuitas is the one that, unfortunately, the government of Canada has not told the citizens of Canada is the reason why both Moderna and Pfizer have the ability to deliver the current bioweapons program. And I think most people would be shocked to find out that when you have the Prime Minister of Canada getting up in front of a camera in the spring of 2020 telling the world that the only way forward is to allegedly return to a new normal when there is a vaccine, what Trudeau did not tell the public was that he had a financial stake in the outcome of that being the selected pathway forward. What he didn't tell the Canadian public was that Canada's blight on the moral record of what has been historically an amazingly wonderful set of innovations coming out of the Canadian research institutions and research laboratories, in fact, created the mechanism whereby you could take mRNA and inject it into a population and try to stabilize that injection. The lipid nanoparticle technology that was developed and ultimately passed to Arbutus was the subject of a licensing agreement that was made with Acuitas Pharmaceuticals in British Columbia, a private company who conveniently had very little reporting requirements. And Acuitas misappropriated the lipid nanoparticle technology and ultimately made it available to both BioNTech and Moderna. It is absolutely critical for us to understand that without the Canadian contribution of the lipid nanoparticle technology from British Columbia, we would have no meaningful response in the form of what's being called a vaccination, and we would not have a bioweapons program. That's a pretty important statement to make to an audience largely of Canadians. And it would be very interesting to find out why it is that Trudeau has not admitted to the public and has been unwilling to actually put into the public record what we know to be at least billions of dollars of concessions. And it could be, I mean, if we look at just Pfizer-BioNTech's own situation, we know that in the case of Pfizer-BioNTech, that last quarter alone, somewhere between $8 and $9 billion came in the form of the revenue off of all of the interventions that are being sold off as coronavirus vaccines. In the last quarter alone, this would place this tiny little British Columbia company, which in 2009, people, was functionally owned by one person. I mean, we need to kind of bear that in mind. One person actually owned this company, Thomas Madden, who's the CEO of Acuitas. In 2009, he was largely the sole owner of it. he actually appropriated the technology in a labor dispute, which functionally was a trade secret argument around this. And when we actually look at what happened in 2016, and this is a very important point, people, in 2016, somebody in Canada knew that there was something going to happen with this particular vaccine platform, because in 2016, Arbutus Pharmaceuticals and Acuitas Pharmaceuticals got into litigation on whether or not the license for the lipid nanoparticle technology that Acuitas had from Arbutus was in fact capable of being extended to other pathogens. And in 2016, there was a significant amount of litigation, and the license that Acuitas had to use lipid nanoparticle technology developed by Techmira, developed by Arbutus, the license was actually terminated in 2016. That coincides with the weaponization of SARS-CoV-2. Now, do we have, at this moment in time, the written record of the evidence of what we know was knowable? The answer to that is no. There is no public information that currently exists that has been made in any format that any of us can access. There's no public information to tell us what precisely transpired in 2016, which allowed this particular dispute to erupt between these two Canadian firms, all based in the history of Techmira. But somewhere in 2016, somebody knew that there was a lottery win to be had. And my guess is that somewhere inside of the Canadian health system, and somewhere inside NIAID and the Vaccine Research Center, and somewhere inside the UNC Chapel Hill records, we will find that the Trudeau government was fully aware by at least 2018 that we were going to have a significant pandemic requiring this core technology to be unleashed on the world, courtesy of the Canadian collaboration on lipid nanoparticles. And there is no question that by the time we get to 2019, March specifically of 2019, we know that Arbutus, Moderna, Pfizer, BioNTech, and others were in fact working on a vaccine for a respiratory pathogen, and we know that information because they amended their patent filings to say exactly that.